Okay, so our group is called Kasettilamerit, and for Finnish people it maybe means something, and for the non-Finnish people it means something like Kasettilamerit. And is there someone who doesn't know what lamer means? I guess there should be. So I'll explain it short. So lamer is a demo scene, at least in the 80s, was kind of elitist group. So it consisted of people who could do something creative with their computers, and usually people who just played games, they were called lamers. And there was I guess it's still called like that these days, I'm not sure. But the name Kasettilamerit comes from the fact that there are many groups preserving Commodore 64 scene history, which were spread in floppy disks. And in Europe there are several groups doing this, but no one did care about tapes, cassettes. So in the end I had something like 2 plastic bags full of tapes at my home, something like 60 liters of them. And I didn't want to throw them away because there was data on it. And so I asked my friends that could they help me with this project, and it started like that. So we started as preserving tapes. And the slides are telling one story and I'm telling the other story, so let's try to keep this some way together. So we started in 2011 and we have grown since then, and now I guess the initial group had something like 3 or 4 people, and today 15 is quite a good estimate, notice estimate. And we consist of demo sceners and also not demo sceners, so there are some interesting people about technology and how to read those old tapes and old discs. It's not that simple anymore these days. So we have a quite flexible and dynamic group. And what do? We preserve, or at least we call them preserving. And the dump verb means something like preserving. Dumping means that we take the media and get the data out, and that's called dumping. And preserving means something more detailed. Dumping. Preserving means that if you buy a commercial disc from the shop, commercial game, preserving it doesn't mean that we just read it. Preserving means that we read every bit out of the disc, and we preserve it like that, and we could duplicate the disc exactly like it was when it came from the factory. And that's preserving, and it's not very simple. And that's the part of the job we do. Usually we just dump, because the disks and material we dump are written at homes, our own software and such, so it's not that exact work. And we have done data, audio, video, film, papers, whatever, something that belongs in the culture of the 80s of our time. And of course we have been documenting the things, because when you have a cassette and you don't know how to load it, you have to look into the data and what it is and try to find out how to decipher the data out of it. So it takes some reverse engineering. Sometimes our group has looked in the source code, or actually binary code of the target computer, and tried there reverse engineering the loading program. And sometimes we just think how it could go, and some trial and error get the data out. So it's sometimes quite difficult and interesting for some people. And we have been coding our own tools because there are no existing tools how to do the job, so we have to do some own code too. And locating and contacting people, and that's kind of a challenge too, because sometimes when you're trying to get a disk to some computer that doesn't exist anymore, you can't find it anywhere, but maybe some people who made the software have something, and finding and contacting those people responsible is quite a difficult job these days. And when you eventually contact them, they don't remember what they have done. So it's a kind of challenge. That's also something what we do. And why do we do this? That's a good question, because it takes lots of time, and we all have our day jobs, we have families and such, and this kind of thing takes time. So personally, I'm worried about my history in the 80s, the scene, demo scene. It's dying, and those discs are rotting away. You can't read them anymore reliable way. So my ambition is to read the discs now when we can read them. And lots of information, they're going away. And hardware, it's useless without software. And software is useless without hardware to run it. And it's fun. It sure is. So for us, Kasettilamerit, we something like 3 or 4 times a year, we make our meeting, which takes usually a weekend. We get together and start to working, and it's actually impossible to describe, but it's fun. And each and every one of the team have own reasons and own ambitions to do the job. So, like, I don't personally care about commercial software. I'm not interested in that. But when someone makes a demo or have a demos, some different versions of it, or maybe some just music that hasn't been released or something, that sticks my bell. So it's a good thing that we are different people, so we get all the job done. And we of course want you to do something too. So we have so far we have done this almost 10 years, and we somehow managed to get stuff for our every meeting that we have been. How to explain this? We haven't seen the day that we don't have anything to dump still. But I'm worried that sometimes we will run out of the media, so we want media from you. If you have discs or tapes or anything somewhere stacked in your parents' place or anywhere, don't throw them away, bring them to us. We will dump them. And then we can throw them away. After that, the data is safe. So, and the thing we often hear from the people, no, I have discs, yes, but you already have them, they are on the internet. But that's not true. There's always something new on every disc. Maybe different version of the game, maybe something else, maybe some changes. We don't know. And actually, when I have something like 200 discs on my desk, I don't even check what's on them. I just dump them and check them later, maybe someday. So I'm not actually interested if it's already dumped or not. I just want to dump them. And that's important because I will explain it more deeply, because sometimes there are errors on those disks. And when you have like 5 copies of the same disks, and they are different, they are broken in different ways, and maybe you can combine a working version from the 5 broken ones. And that's my motivation to dump everything. And how do we do this? And we have made own hardware and software for dumping Commodore 64 Tampere tapes. It's quite good. And we are using rifles for disks, at least currently. DC2N, you can use Google to find that project. It's quite handy for the original tapes or unknown tapes. And lots of coffee and tea and patience and time. I don't have much of patience. If I see a job that looks impossible, I can't do it. I give it to someone else. I like to do things that I can solve. So we all already come back to the thing that it's good that we have so many people with different interests, so we can do also the difficult jobs. And what have we done so far? And I'm quite sure we have tens of thousands of Commodore 64 software. I haven't counted. We have, I know. For turbo tapes or those cassette tapes, I know last time I checked, I had something like 6,000 programs for Commodore 64 dumped from the tapes. And we have been doing also some other things than Commodore 64, but since Commodore 64 is my beloved one, I already know about that, so I don't have any numbers for Sinclair Spectrum or others. But we have done those too. Also, we have preserved thousands of original titles, and there comes an SPS connection, Software Preservation Society. And we are working together with them to preserve those original games and other software. Of course, ROMs, you know those chips, we have also dumped them, and also some commercial machinery, something you use in factories and such. That's quite an interesting story. Documents and papers. We have been talking to people, not doing interviews, at least not yet, but trying to gather information or talking to different people who know those things. And we have been aiding the Finnish Museum of Games. So there are some Commodore 64 games you can play there. Those are special versions made by Kasettilamerit for museum to make them easier to handle here. When you switch on the computer, the game starts right away, so you have to modify the original game so it can do that. And we have been helping Finnish Meteorological Institute. They had a disk weather data from the 80s on floppy disk, and they couldn't read them, so we helped them. And we visit collectors. Collectors are strange breed of people. They hoard things, they collect things, but they don't want to give anything out. And if you want to borrow software for dumping, they don't give it to you. So you have to go there and dump the stuff. If you get an invitation, you don't get invitation if you don't know the guy. So that's something we do, and it's kind of expensive. Thinking about maybe the collector lives in Rovaniemi, you have to travel there, you have to sleep somewhere, and that all comes from your own pocket. We don't have any funding. And some bonus. We have seen strange shapes of floppies. Some demo sceners thought it was funny to cut a round disk in the cube, or whatever, rectangle. Okay, that's fine, you can read it from the Commodore 64, but when you put it in the modern floppy drive, you get into troubles, you might break the drive, so don't do this. We have seen unreleased games. Actually, we have a game called Ahvenjahti, Commodore 64 ice fishing game. It's a complete game, it's finished, but it never got released. And actually it's quite a good game. We have seen system-locked, licensed and formatless disks. So system-locked disks means that you have a disk, but it doesn't work, but in just one machine. The other same kind of machine there, it doesn't work because it's locked to this specific kind of hardware. And that's kind of, actually we helped some museum in Germany about this. They have some teletype machine which have only one working disk, and they wanted to make a copy, but they couldn't because almost they made a copy, it didn't work anymore. So we helped them there. So again, they can keep their show running again. And multi-platform disk, that means something like you have a one floppy disk and there's Atari version and a Commodore version on the same disks. It can be done, but it's not easy to dump, but we haven't done it. And some challenges we have seen, and actually we have all the time. Access to the rare media, and this was covered in those collector things. Collectors have them, but they are not giving them away. I don't know why. And problem is that we have hundreds of gigabytes stuff archived. It grows bigger. You have to think about backups. How do you manage that? We don't want to lose everything if the hardware breaks. So we are constantly asked, why don't you give us this and why don't you give us that title? We can't, it's illegal. It would be nice to give everything away, but copying disks is illegal, I think. So we can't do that. And people don't understand why are we doing this. That's strange, but it is, they don't understand. And optical media, CD discs and such, we don't know how to dump them. We can read them, but we don't know really how to dump them to the last bit. And no one seems to know. There's this redump project on the internet. I was looking into that, how they do it, and I found out they don't know it either.
The Internet Archive?
No, redump project. They are,
redump.
Yeah. And they are doing this thing, and now they are discussing maybe we have to do this all over again. And that's something I don't want to do. I want to do the job one time, not many times. So, and the money. We are people who are buying the rare originals from eBay. It costs maybe 200 euros, 300 euros some titles. Then we dump the disc. Then we try to sell it again to buy a next one. It costs money, travel, hardware. Like, if you want to dump anything old, you have to have hardware to do it. And it costs money. And they are getting quite hard to find. Think about a punch card, you know, those cards which have holes in them. They contain data. How to read them these days? It's a kind of difficult job. And by now we have been paying this all from our own pockets, and it's a kind of expensive hobby. And the funding is also a challenge, and maybe we can in the future have some funding, I don't know. And actually that was the last slide. But this is Kasettilamerit and what we do. And I think you have some questions.
Yes, sir.
Oops.
Thanks. You said that you have a closed archive because of legal reasons.
Yes.
That's of course a pity. And if you put so many effort in it, it should be available as broad as possible and usable as broad as possible. And I wonder, have you ever thought maybe sending your dumps to the Internet Archive, which is located in the States, and they have another legal framework, knowing fair use, for example, and at least to what I understood is that they are uploading thousands and thousands of such dumps you are doing to their software archive, where they can download it from everybody. Have you ever thought about this option? Maybe also other public available archives might be appropriate for your purposes?
Yes, of course we have thought about that, and there are currently two problems. One problem is that our archive is quite largely unsorted. We have lots of stuff we don't know what it is yet, and that's quite a challenge to go through it and try to find the duplicates and such things. And also when you upload things to archives like that, you have to know what you upload and make a metadata.
Of course.
And we don't currently have resources for that, unfortunately. It takes time and energy, and
But couldn't that become a setup for an application? If you can show an option which make your dumps available to the public, let's say the Internet Archive, it might be more likely that you are able to get resources for documenting the things without having the option to make it available. Because for a closed archive, it's, I think, hard to get the resources to document everything. If it's not accessible, why should anybody give you that resources? So I think that's important, that you come up with solutions how you can make it accessible.
That was exactly what is one of our current problems. And we have plans to make a database where we can sort all the things we have been dumping and find the duplicates and do other things. And we have good plans, but currently we don't have anyone to do that. The programming job, we have one candidate who has said that he will do it, but we haven't started the project yet. It takes time to plan this very carefully, that we don't have to do it again later. So we don't have as much resources we would like to have, but I hate this legal thing, because I would personally just want to give everything away, but I can't.
I will give one another reason why I don't want to put everything to Internet Archive. Is out of respect of the authors, because sometimes we get the original media from the authors.
Yeah.
And if they don't want us to put them somewhere, then we break their will, and then others will not give their media to us. So I prefer to keep it in the data in black hole, where it's not shared to anyone, over to the fact that the media is somewhere rotting away.
But why do the Internet Archive is not respecting the authors?
If they don't want to share it yet for some reason, there are some authors of old software that don't want to share their software.
Okay, I forgot to mention that, of course, we have dumped lots of, I have like several thousand of disks, which the owner said that you can't spread this. I don't know why. I have lots of C64 software, and the owner said you don't share them. So I have to respect that fish, but at least the data is safe. So that's kind of a wicked thing.
But no, they don't explain why they don't want you to...
No, okay, I know some reasons. I have some discs where there's some personal stuff, like song lyrics, poetry, such things. Maybe they don't want diaries, something like that. So when we go through the stuff, we of course take demos and stuff out of there and leave the, the personal stuff away. So it takes again a lot of time. So there was a question there.
Well, my question goes in the same direction as Andreas. It's an amazing project, but I really can't get this into my head. How can you keep doing this and basically not spreading this? I mean, there is a huge movement on the C64 scene to preserve discs. There is this C64 discs FTP server and so on, where people upload dumps of loads of stuff.
We do that.
Oh, you do that? Okay.
Yes, but we have some stuff we can't do, like those commercial games. Mm-hmm. We can't do that. And
But what about cracks? People
cracks.
upload old cracks on CHDB and
we put those on the suitable other projects. Of course, we submit stuff.
So you share it with CSDB as well.
But we are not sharing them to people whining in the Facebook.
Yeah, of course.
We are not doing that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But so for the stuff that you do not share, have you any long-term plans what to do with it, or is it supposed to go into the grave together with you guys?
We have some kind of idea what to do with the stuff. Of course, we need to catalog it, and we need to mark it that you're not supposed to spread it. And I don't know at this time what we can do about it. Of course, we want to honor the people. Maybe we ask permission later. I don't know.
One thing is that we are working under Finnish laws, and Finnish laws about software rights and media rights are really strict, and we have to work with those. Even we want to share, there is laws what prevent us to do that. That's one thing. If we work elsewhere, for example, in ex-Eastern countries or in US, the situation would be totally different. But in here, we have to...
We try to be very careful that we don't do anything illegal. Of course, we are doing illegal things. You all remember this "Don't copy that floppy" commercial, something in the 80s. But okay, another question.
Yeah, maybe one last question, then we move on to the next presentation.
Can you explain what is making you say that optical media is very difficult and no one seems to know how to do this properly? I'm curious because we've done some and published some research on this. So.
Yes, reading optical disc is easy. You put it in the computer and you read the contents, but that's not actually an exact copy of the disc. You get the data out, but you can't duplicate the disc later to make exactly the same copy.
But you can image it.
Yes, I can image it, but the image won't be the same as the data on the disc.
Additionally, for magnetic media, what we do, floppies and tape media, we have different kind of software that gets much more data out from that disk than normal, just reading it as image. We get much more, we get multiple times of total normal amount of data on the disk. For example, something like 800 kilobyte or 720 kilobyte disk comes up to something like 10 megabytes when we read it. Mm. So we that kind of doing that kind of preserving of the data. But we do not know, actually nobody doesn't know how to do that for optical media, how to get every bit out from there.
We have some ideas how to do this, but it doesn't sound quite handy. But the problem is that no one knows how to dump it properly. At least they don't have any solution for it if they know how to do it. So if we, this actually comes to the preservation, more about preserving the optical media, because of course you can read it. You put it in your computer, you copy the data, that's it. But you can't make a copy of that disk later, and that's what we are after, to preserve the mastering data of the disk, how to make a perfect copy. And we think that's preserving. And it's difficult, because there's some error correction data and such. It's actually, I can't explain it. I'm not technical enough to do this. But
Can I give an example?
okay, because
The PlayStation 2 game, GTA San Andreas. The data on the DVD is in a very specific order, because it's built in a way that it tries to predict from which area of the game you can move to the next area. So areas that are on the map close by are also close by on the disk. If you copy this disk by traditional means, you end up with a DVD that will make the optical lens, it will just go back and forth, and the game will be unplayable. Because the pirates discovered this. Rockstar did this as a form of copy protection. But this is the level of detail that they are looking for.
So it's copy protection.
Yeah, so which data is next to which data? It's not just copy protection, it's also optimization. This game would be unplayable on the PS2 unless you did this sort of optimization.
it's also copy protection, but it's not just all about copy protection. Also some audio CDs, they have some data tracks and they have musical tracks. And if you want to preserve the disk, you have to have the data tracks too. So it's a kind of difficult problem, and we haven't solved it yet.
Okay, I think this is a good note to end this presentation. Thank you so much to the Kasettilamerit. Let's give a big hand of applause.